The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Welcome back, boys and girls. It's about that time of day again here, folks. The 4th of the month of March, 3/4/2014. Welcome back. My name is Joseph James. Question for you. What does the S&P 500, our 32nd president, right, of the U.S., Ben & Jerry's ice cream, I know, right? It sounds pretty good right about now, and the world's largest bank, what do they all have in common? They're all going to be featured tonight in our newsletter. So stick around. We're going to take a look at what happened this morning. First, we'll take a look at the trades that we called last night. I told you guys to pay attention last night. We had some wonderful opportunities today using the markets, the specific information I gave you guys in last night's newsletter. Then we're going to talk about what happened in the markets today, some of the news that came out today. We'll do a little bit of this day in history, always my favorite time of the newsletter. And then we'll wrap up here with prepping for our news tomorrow. Now, we have been experimenting with a new format of our nightly newsletter. And moving forward, I'm going to be doing just one part, just one video, the first part. So the part number 2 will temporarily be retired, but I would love your feedback. Let me know if you guys find it useful or not. All right, so send me your feedback as we're continuing to play with the formatting here of our nightly newsletter. The problem is I've only got 24 hours in a day, and I spend a lot of time with my clients. So I want to give as much as I can for free out there, for some good juju out there in the internet world. But at the same time, I've got to make sure I take my time too. So let's jump right in here. Are you loving this yet? Are you with me? Are you with me? I can't hear you out there. Are you with me? This is what being a day trader is all about. Who cares about what's happening in the Ukraine? Who cares about what comes out of China? Who cares about what the news says? The bottom line is we've got some of the most volatile markets we have ever seen, and this is fun. You're having fun. You're making money. Does it get much better than that? I don't think so. I don't think so. So a wonderful day today in the room. Our live trade room opens up every morning at 8 a.m. We welcome in students from around the world, new traders, veteran traders. We trade crude, gold, euro, Russell. It doesn't matter what we're trading. All I care about is what's moving. Made some great money today. Let's start first, though, by talking about some information I gave you guys last night. If you were paying attention last night, I gave you guys 3 different markets to watch, crude, gold, and Russell. As of this morning, you got your sell on crude. Again, here right below this video here, I'll put all the updated charts here for you. We get a short there on crude, 104.06, hit our profit target at 103.11. That's $1,000 per contract, that profit on crude. On gold, we gave you guys a sell last night of 13.42, profit target at 37.2, right? That's $5, that's 50 ticks, that's $500 per contract on gold. And Russell, if you couldn't make money on Russell today, you need to come see me tomorrow morning in the trade room, all right? If you weren't able to make money on Russell today, something is very, very wrong, all right? So easy money on Russell. We needed one of those scientific calculators to calculate all the profit we made today buying the Russell at 79.2. Don't take my word for it, guys. You can't believe what you see on television these days. Go back. Watch last night's newsletter. Don't take my word for it. Prove it to yourself. I'm not making this stuff up. What happened in the markets today? So we had a great day today. Hope you guys did too. And it was a pretty nice surprise because we didn't have any major news on the schedule today. But here, moving forward though, crude, big moves today. 211 ticks, down 1.46%. Gold today, 217 ticks, down 1.18%. But the big mover today, I know, right? Where is this guy come? Where is the Russell going? Above 1,200 today, 367 ticks straight up. We saw that coming a mile away. And again, last night, what did I tell you? Opening bell above the highs, you're buying. This was easy, guys. Well, let's not say it was easy, because if you knew what to look for at the opening bell this morning, Crude told us what to do this morning at the opening bell. What did Crude tell us to do at the opening bell today? Take the hands and sit on them, right? Range-bound market. We ended up falling out of bed later on in the session, and that's when, of course, we started to sell short. Russell was easy pickings, though. Right at the opening bell, bam. You had to have a hood on. You'd have your eyes closed to miss that this morning. And even then, just listening to the price action, right, it was pretty easy. So right out the gate today, we were buying Russell, sitting on hands out the gate on Crude, but that turned into, of course, some sell-off here late in the session. No major news today. Let's talk quickly about news today. We had a barren economic calendar. We come in this morning and what do we see? I know. I'm starting to think, now see, here's the deal, guys. A professional trader has to, we have to think like a trader, all right? Read between the lines. It's the unseen that is the most important. So I get up this morning, 3 o'clock in the morning like I always do, right, bright and early. I stroll on down to my iPad. I look at my news account, right, I pay for the news services. And I see, this can't be right. Vladimir Putin says, okay, the exercises in West Russia are over. Well, guess that's it, boys and girls. We'll go home. Sorry for the snafu. Didn't mean to upset you guys there in Crimea. Oh, what? You guys were, me? No. You thought we were going to do what? No. 150,000 troops, 80 battleships, 95 tanks, news cameras, troops on the ground. What would make you think I was going to do anything wrong? It's not like I'm Russia or anything. And I'm going, this must be a joke. This must be a joke. And I'm going, wait a second here. So after this whole soap opera develops, I don't know who's worse, our politicians or Vladimir Putin, right? Because these guys love to make something out of nothing. Now, here's my rationale. The only reason why Vladimir Putin and the rest of the thugs, right, at the Kremlin, the only reason, I say thugs with the most respect, of course, right? And I shouldn't have to worry because the Russian people are amazing people. The Ukrainian people are amazing people. It's the leaders that we have of these places that are rough around the edges. I won't use any choice words. I'll let you use the choice words. So I'm sitting here at 3:15 in the morning and I'm thinking, this can't be right. Really? After all this fuss, he just comes out of nowhere with this it looked like a funeral, right? The press conference, I guess that's what a press conference looks like in Russia. Maybe it looks like a funeral, I don't know. But it felt like a funeral, and there he is telling us, no, you guys are all mistaken. This was just an exercise. We were just practicing in case something. Right, sure. And then it hit me. What happened earlier this week? What happened to equity markets? Well, in the U.S., we saw a pullback on Sunday night and Monday. What happened in Europe, though? Much bigger pullback, right? DAX market down, 3.5%? Now, I'm not much of a long-term trader. I don't trade many stocks, but if I was looking to buy the equities, what would I look to do? Buy at a discount. Where do you think would be a discount? What would cause a discount? A big pullback? A big political nightmare? Natural disaster? Something that shakes things up? Doesn't make much sense? Has inflammatory potential? So I'm thinking, if I wanted to get into these bullish equity markets, I could probably make up a whole big fuss, push these equities lower, and sounds like a pretty good opportunity to be a buyer at that point. Sure enough, equity markets back to all-time highs in the U.S. and in Europe. DAX up over 2.5% today. I think we might have been hosed, boys and girls. Don't quote me on this, but something tells me Mr. Putin made a pretty good income today when these equity markets went right back up. That's the only thing that I can explain it by. It's either that or Vladimir Putin just can't resist the ability to jab whoever he can and get a rise out of them. Driving me nuts, but hey, you know what? Do we really care why? Do we really care why? I mean, I get it. We don't like what's going on, but do we really care why? No, we don't care why. right? I will wipe my tears, right, with $100 bills. Because here we are today, moved down Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, right back up. Heck, who else is going to come out tomorrow? Bring it on! Who else wants to do some exercises in Western Russia? I will gladly take this volatility for the rest of my career. Doesn't make much sense. It's frustrating, but that's what happened today. No major economic news today. I was personally expecting that we would hear from President Obama today. That's what I talked about this morning. This morning I said, well, if we hadn't heard from Putin in this very funeral-esque press conference this morning, I was expecting to see Obama on the microphone. And I thought that was going to be the news that would get things moving today, but it didn't need to. So Russia backs off, right, the invasion of Ukraine, and I thought this was really low. I thought this was pretty pathetic, and this really sums up what my opinion of Russia has become. So basically, the U.S. threatens to impose sanctions, right, and they go through the normal channels through the United Nations. And of course, there are processes for this, right? We don't just go firing missiles, right, to solve things. We go to a courtroom, like civilized people. So of course, like the civilized people that they are, so Russia threatens to drop the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. Okay, I get that, right? Tit for tat, eye for an eye. You give me sanctions, I won't use your dollars. I get that. But what I thought was probably one of the biggest or the lowest blows I've ever seen. This is like, really? You're going to go that low? I mean, this is the most pathetic thing I think I've read all year. Now, it's only early in the year. But they also finished. It was the banking president of Russia, I can't recall who the exact person was, but basically said that, no. It wasn't they were going to drop the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. Well, they're going to do that. But they're also not going to repay any loans in U.S. dollars, right? Now, this doesn't just affect the U.S. Now this affects every other country around the world that just so happens to have received a loan in U.S. dollars. Ooh, you got me. That was low. That is, I'll tell you right now, if we had any ability to think anything less of Mr. Putin, right, and his thugs at the Kremlin, that really did it for me. All right? So, done talking about Russia. I can keep going all day long about this, but we're going to talk about some more important information because at this stage, I don't believe it's worth even giving them the time of our day. Ben Bernanke quoted today by saying, and remember, there was no major news here today. Ben Bernanke quoted today saying, households have recovered from the crisis. Households have recovered from the... I keep reading it, but I just don't understand what he means by recovered. Does that mean all the people have made back their 401ks that were lost? I don't think so. Does that mean that I made back the $500,000 in equity that I lost in my home? Nope. I don't think so. Does that mean that all those people that stopped, right, looking for jobs, that's why the unemployment rate has come down? Unemployment's not dropping because of more jobs, guys. It's dropping because people are leaving the job hunt. Have those people gone back to work? I don't think so. So, wondering what Mr. Bernanke was, was he in Colorado? Was he hanging out in Colorado? I don't know what he was smoking this morning. Apparently maybe a brownie or a little, cupcake or something like that. Who knows? But Ben Bernanke, apparently, a week out of office, he's had a few too many Mai Tais because he is completely out of touch with the world right now. I'm not sure where he came from on that. I laughed. I had a good laugh when I read that quote today, Mr. Ben Bernanke, our former Fed chairperson. And then some very important news. I'm not just here to waste your time tonight. Some important news here. Tonight, 4:30 p.m. Every Tuesday night, we hear from the API number, right? The American Petroleum Institute. They gave us the second straight week of a build in inventories today. Tomorrow morning, we've got crude oil inventories from the EIA tomorrow at 9:30. So be ready for crude. We got news today at 4:30. A second consecutive week of a build. That means inventories are higher. And tomorrow we'll wait and see what happens at 10:30 tomorrow morning to see what the inventory comes out from the EIA. So no major news today, unless you call this little charade right out of Russia no major news. But I thought it was incredible. Just absolutely incredible, the information coming out of Russia right now. This day in history, one of my favorite times of the newsletter. Now we got some pretty good stuff today. All right. Not every day we have some really cool things here. This day in history, March 4th, 1919. 500 years earlier, 1472. That's right, boys and girls. 1472. Yeah. Kind of like a little nursery rhyme we learned as kids in the U.S. about Columbus, right? Sailing the ocean blue, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, right about that same time. Very long time ago. The world's oldest operating bank. It's still in operation today. So the next time somebody here in the U.S. says, we've been around for 120 years, you can tell them, really? How about 500 years? Have you been around as long as the Monte della Pieta? Which, by the way, I know nothing of Italian language. I hope I didn't butcher that one for you. I'm sure you guys will let me know. So the Monte della Pieta is founded in Siena to lend money, I love this, to the poor and wretched or needy persons. Could you imagine walking into Bank of America right now and going, hi, I'm poor. Oh, you wretched? Yep. I'm needy. Clearly the liberals hadn't gotten hands on that yet, right? We weren't all PC yet. We don't call them wretched. We just call them the wretched. You can just imagine, right, what that would be like today. And a 7.5% interest rate. So in 1472, the world's oldest operating bank in Italy lends money at 7.5% annually. And it is still working today. It's still headquartered in the same building. Isn't that the way things should be? Back in the old days, you didn't replace it, you fixed it. Your car breaks down, you repair it, you keep it, right? Because you're not going to find a car that well built anymore. Relationships. Nowadays, I get married, 2 weeks later, I'm over that. Divorce, right? Find a new one. Don't fix it, replace it. This is the way our society has become. I love the fact that the Monte della Pieta is still in the same building, probably using the same copier with the same rotary phone, right? I'm kidding around with you. Let's move forward. March 4th, 1789, just a little 300-year jump, right? It really puts in perspective that we are just children here in the United States, right? We are infants in the big scheme of things here in the U.S., right? And the kids have all the fun these days, don't they? The Constitution of the United States of America goes into effect, 1789. 2 years later, Vermont becomes the 14th state of the Union. And then don't forget, right? Hippies everywhere praise 200 years later, Vermont's greatest export. See, a lot of people think that the biggest export in Vermont is snow, Birkenstocks, the Grateful Dead, right? But no, it's actually Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I will definitely take some Cherry Garcia if anyone's got any. So 1791, Vermont opens its doors, the 14th state. 1861, Abraham Lincoln inaugurated as our 16th president. Kids, if you don't know who Abraham Lincoln is, you got to. This is one of the most impressive individuals in the history of our existence. He fought through the great, not the Great Depression, but the Civil War, right? The bloodiest, worst war in our history. But the biggest thing is Abraham Lincoln was responsible for freeing slaves. He abolished slavery, possibly the most important turning point in our nation's history. He led this country before he was assassinated. He led this country into economic wealth and prosperity. He was a role model for everyone in every sense of the word. Abraham Lincoln, 1861. 1933, FDR. Franklin Delano Roosevelt becomes the 23rd president. Now, of course, he was famous by putting together the New Deal. The New Deal was an expansion of the federal government. Yeah, I know, kind of funny, right? How every few decades we have the expansion of the government. And every few decades, all the Republicans say, the government's getting too big. And the Democrats say, you need us, right? You didn't build this, or whatever Obama's quote was, right? You didn't make this. But this is a great example of a time in our history where a president came in, put together the New Deal, his famous quote, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." This was a rainy inauguration day on the White House lawn, and he turned this whole entire country around. FDR in 1933 inaugurated as our 32nd president. After that, this country went to great prosperity and got out of that Great Depression. And then sure enough, another very interesting little stat today. March 4th, 1957, the Standard & Poor's Corp introduces a new stock index, initially called the Standard 500, which we now know as the S&P 500. It had a scientific weighting formula that was intended to allow the average person to see the value of all the stocks, right, in the Standard 500, in the S&P 500. So pretty cool stuff there, right? Very interesting this day in history. Quite a bit went on this day in history. What about tomorrow? We got a whole slew, a smorgasbord, a buffet, a potpourri of news tomorrow, starting here tonight. 8:45, in just about an hour and a half from now, we've got news out of China. All of this is Red Star news, which means we've got to be ready for this. These are going to be big movers. 8:45 p.m., we got China. Then fast forward to tomorrow morning. 4 a.m. we hear from the EU. 5 a.m. from the EU. We got GDP at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. Then we go into the U.S. 8:15 we have ADP employment. Don't confuse that with non-farm payrolls. Non-farm payrolls will be Friday, right? We'll talk about that tomorrow. 8:15 though, we have ADP employment. 10 o'clock, we hear from CAD, the Bank of Canada. Now guys, why would news at 10 o'clock from the Bank of Canada, why would that be important? Think about what we talked about before, rewind the tape. What do we know about Canada, the US, Russia, Australia, New Zealand? What do we know about those countries? Big natural resources, huge natural resources industry. So when we hear from anything Red Star, that means the big mover news. Tomorrow we hear from the BOC, the Bank of Canada, and we are going to be listening in, watching crude, watching nat gas, because of all the natural resources, right? All the commodities that are affected by that. At the same time, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., we have the ISM non-manufacturing. But the big news tomorrow is later on in the session. 10:30, we got inventories on crude, and 2 o'clock tomorrow, we got beige book. This is really important, guys, because tomorrow at 10:30, we've got crude oil inventories, which means this. We need to remember tomorrow morning is likely to be a little bit sloppy on crude before 10:30. Don't say I didn't warn you. And then remember, we're going to sit on our hands 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after that news comes out. I don't care whether it takes duct tape, chicken wire, handcuffs. I don't care what it takes, guys. Bungee cords, whatever it takes, sit on those hands 15 minutes before 10:30 and 15 minutes after 10:30. And of course, it only applies to crude. The most difficult part tomorrow morning is going to be if crude does not want to play ball with us before 10:30. The hardest part is going to be saying, all right, you win. I'll wait till after 10:30. Then, don't fall victim to that knee-jerk reaction there at 10:30, guys. Don't fall victim like every rookie trader. You don't need to be the first person in that move after 10:30 news is released, guys. You don't have to be the first person. Last week, if you recall what happened, it jumped up. I missed the buy. So what did I do? Sold it right back down. You don't need to be the first person in. Wait patiently. 10:45 tomorrow morning. Find the new trend. If you miss the move, look to grab the fake out, breakout, and bring it right back to where it started. All right. But bottom line is though, be careful tomorrow around 10:30. And if you're trading crude, be careful before 10:30. Right. Don't be surprised if that price action is pretty nasty before it comes. It's tough to tell ahead of time. All we can do tomorrow morning is take a look at the price action we see at 9 o'clock when crude opens. And then I hope this doesn't have much of an impact tomorrow, but it might towards the end of the day. We got that 2 o'clock beige book. Now remember, the beige book is kind of like the Fed meeting minutes, but not really, right? The beige book, let me give you some background. Of course, there's also a hyperlink there. You can learn more about the beige book. The beige book, we have this thing called FOMC Day, right? Where all the Fed governors, right? 12 different districts, 8 times a year, FOMC Day, right? So those Federal Reserve banks, there's 12 districts around the U.S. In the old days, they had a notebook where they would keep, basically written notes on what was happening in their district. Then they would get together at the FOMC meeting, the 2-day meeting, and they would exchange beige books, right? Pretty simple. That way, at these FOMC meetings, the Federal Reserve chairperson, right, who now is Janet Yellen, okay, used to be Ben Bernanke, they can see what's happening around the country. Well, now the beige book, of course, is digital. It's all linked together. It's not physical, right, pieces of paper. And remember, now we have one Federal Reserve Bank. We don't have 12 different districts now, right? So now the beige book, it's still being used, but what happens is when the beige book is at 2 o'clock, it's a very important news report because it's going to talk about what they saw at the last FOMC. They're going to talk about the things that are affecting the different districts around the country. So there's definitely some knowledge to be had from the beige book. But for us day traders, we don't really care about the knowledge that's in it. We just know that usually when you have beige book at 2 o'clock, usually the beige book at 2 o'clock is going to result in some sloppy price action starting after 11:30 tomorrow morning. So just like always, when there's news in the afternoon, traders tend to go to lunch about an hour early. So lunch usually starts about 11:30, 12, right? It may creep up here until 10:45, 11 o'clock, 11:30. So just be aware, tomorrow, late in the morning session, we may start seeing that little bit of drop-off in volume and personality. Be looking for it. Not a guarantee, obviously, but usually when there's news in the afternoon, usually traders will go to lunch a little bit earlier so they can come back a little bit earlier from getting their $5 footlong at the subway. All right? That's your news today, guys. Now remember, we're not going to have part number 2 here for this newsletter. So I've put all the charts below tonight's newsletter. I would love your feedback. And don't forget, inside of those charts, you've got some great hidden clues for tomorrow's price action. We had some great trades today, courtesy of last night's newsletter. So hopefully you guys are paying attention out there. Use those charts below the video. Don't forget to send me your feedback. Join the free trial. Register for our newsletter on the blog. And guys, you guys have a great Tuesday evening. Have a profitable and successful hump day tomorrow. We got Wednesday the 5th tomorrow. I'm excited. You better be excited too, guys. We got some incredible opportunities every single day of the week this week so far. I can't wait for tomorrow. We're going to have another big day tomorrow. Don't say I didn't warn you. Guys, remember, learn it so you can earn it. Come join me tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. in the trade room, and we'll do it together. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.